So let's kick off, and I'm going to start with you, Tanya. What's the first thing that you want to nominate to
The first
Room
thing
101?
is going to be no surprise to anyone that ever reads my column, which is around gender stereotyping. It's lazy, it's bad, it's harmful. Stop doing it. The two things that I really, really hate, the things that are most likely, well, most of it makes me angry, but what's really going to get me screaming at the TV or stopping the car to shout at an outdoor execution is the doofus dad. And the woman is eating salad or cottage cheese, but she's laughing. No one is like that. The doofus dad I think is awful. You know, the father who's incapable of cooking after his kids, or making a simple meal, or all of those things. And it sounds funny, and everyone's laughing, but actually it perpetuates a stereotype which suggests to men that actually if you do that, you're not normal. And what we know, and marketeers know this, we do this all the time, we're constantly trying to get people to connect, to get people to see in our campaigns people like them, and yet when it comes to gender stereotyping, we don't ever adopt that thinking. We kind of forget it. So we will put on women who don't reflect real women. We put men up who don't reflect real men, and we're just, being lazy at mode, and I want people to stop doing it.
Tanya, your second nomination for Room 101.
You almost didn't let me put this in. So
we get an inside baseball here.
I'm a communications person. I do what I do because I love language, and we are so lucky in the English language because we have so many words to choose from. You know, there is always one right word, and anyone that's ever worked with me will know that I am the person that will constantly correct you as you're speaking, particularly fewer and less. I can't help it. I'm sorry. So I can't put everyone in that uses language poorly. But what I am going to put in is ridiculous buzzwords for which marketing, you can't help yourselves, can you? Russell proved my point earlier on when he talked about, I had a meeting with someone the other day who did, these were his exact words. So we're going to touch base back at the mothership to see how the optics go. And it was just like, just tell me if I've got the gig. Okay, that's all I want to know. The one particular one, which characterizes it, will make me scream, is when people reach out. Don't reach out to me. Unless you're a member of the Four Tops, don't reach out. Call me, email me, give me a ring. I don't want anyone reaching out. It sounds weird and pervy.
Stop reaching out. Key message there. We've had Tanya's 2 nominations. We'll come back to those, and you can vote on those later. Colin, what's your first?
Well, my first one is that Twitter must die, okay? And I want to shout out a list of things. I want you to see, can you get the connecting point in them? Okay, so it's the divine right of kings, the earth is flat, the sun goes around the earth, witches, bloodletting to improve your health, clean diesel, primogeniture, papal infallibility. What are all those things? They're things we no longer believe in. We used to think they're good, but we no longer believe. We actually all think they're bullshit, okay? And Twitter is bullshit. It's the biggest time suck going.
Tweet.
And also,
hashtag MWL18.
Hashtag MWL. No, let me explain, okay? If you are a professional marketer, and so Marketing Week do the Vision 100, okay? If you go through the top 100 marketers in the Vision 100, how many of them are sitting all day tweeting? Very unlikely. They're actually working, surprise, surprise, yeah? And so the way Stephen Pressfield, the wonderful writer of Do the Work, has a phrase which is, the amateur tweets, the professional works, okay? And the reason why it drives me mad, actually I don't really hate it that much, is obviously it's great if you're a pop star and great if you're a president of the United States and you want to do something in the evening and you're bored, okay? But the thing that really drives me nuts is the phrase the newspapers use, the internet is blowing up with, name your stupid topic, okay? No, a very small, taking Mark's point on segmentation, a very small, elite percentage of the world with a lot of spare time in their hands is talking about something that they think other people are interested in, okay? Now, that's maybe a bit, okay, I'm being a bit humorous on the whole thing, but actual reality is the Twitter stats are that on a daily basis, people spend less than 60 seconds on the platform. And we're talking about this is representative of the internet. And then the final point I want to make about why Twitter is, we have this belief that if the brand is slagged off and taken down on Twitter, bad things happen, okay? Well, let me tell you something very clear. What's a good judgment of a business? The markets and its share price, okay? So United Airlines tore off a guy off an aircraft and was videoed and put on the internet in April 2017 on the 7th. Its share price was $70.88. The next day, the share price went up by 0.9% to 71.52, and it's currently still at 70. Yeah? So things blowing up on the internet and Twitter causing, it has no effect on the company, no effect on the brands. It's all a big load of hype. And Twitter has to join things like the divine right of kings, primogeniture, and papal infallibility as things we no longer believe in.
Colin,
so
your second nomination.
The second one is, if anybody here is most of you here are professional marketers, and one of the things you will hear all the time is about how these blue chip FMCG brands such as Unilever, Diageo, Procter & Gamble, and all the rest of it, they're regarded as the gods of marketing. The FMCG brands you have to work for. And if you don't work for them, you're somehow not so good. You're somehow not so brilliant. You're somehow not such a good marketer. Okay? Now, I want to put my hand up and say the bitterness is driven personally by me as well, of course. Okay? So the amount of times I've gone for job interviews and to say, Colin, if you just had worked for Heinz, Procter & Gamble, or whatever the case is, then you'd have got the job, but you didn't, so you're not quite there. So I'll admit my bitterness up front straight away, okay? But how on earth can this be a modern thing in 2018 to go and say, if you work for these brands, you are somehow better than somebody else who works for for another brand, okay? And particularly when these brands are stumbling and missing the point a lot in the last couple of weeks. And actually many of Mark's articles are about how these guys are just losing the plot, Coca-Cola as an example. Now, what is it about selling sugared water that makes you better than the guy who's, say, working, let's say, in B2B, okay? Now, B2B is a very interesting one. I've had to move to the dark side and now work in B2B over the last 2 years. And it's really very interesting because they have to get the clients to keep paying, yeah? These SaaS business models, they force you to keep paying. It's built on usage. Now, you could say Coca-Cola is built on usage as well, but it really is built on usage because their share price is tied exactly to how many subscriptions are tied in, okay? And it's been very interesting noticing how the whole usage model makes them totally focused on the customer and makes them build the success and the marketing within the product itself, rather than all this other crap around the brand, okay? And it's, as I say, my own bitterness is driving this particular statement, but also how good is that useful for the future of marketing when we see marketing looming crisis? I want to read one of the quotes in it. It says, from Olivia Gold, the lack of socioeconomic diversity. When I look at the networks and opportunities for marketing, it's all top tier. So how are we going to attract the future of marketing if when you eventually do 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 years into your career, you say, if you just had worked for Procter & Gamble, then you'd be great, but we can't hire you because of that, okay? So we're basically telling people, unless you work for these 10 companies, typically about 10 brands, who, by the way, are quite struggling at the moment, you won't really have a career that's really worthwhile compared to if you had, okay? What sort of model is that for the world? So the concept of FMCG, classical brand training, is bunk. It needs to move on from that. There's a different world that we're facing from now on.
Thanks, Colin. I think we probably need to move on, unless anybody from P&G, Unilever, Kraft Heinz wants to stand up and declare themselves better than everybody else. It's a rhetorical question, but thank you. Mark, your first nomination.
Yeah, no surprise. If you've ever read my column, I'm going to put digital and digital first there. So we'll do digital first. So you occasionally, frequently now, encounter marketers and companies that say we're taking a digital first approach. And my reaction to that is, what the fuck is that all about, right? You start with customers, you start with your brand, and you start with strategy. And then you choose the best tools on the table. And the idea you would already start with a tactical subset as the beginning of your strategy is wrong in so many different ways. It is stunning. And yet we see an increase in this digital first approach. But I'd like to go further than digital first. Let me be very clear what I know to be true. If you've got digital in your title, you're fucked. Okay? Not now. You've got about 3 years left. Trust me, I'm being entirely serious. If you work in a digital agency, it makes perfect sense. Okay? I'm not talking about that. We have sales promotion agencies, we have PR agencies. The name on the tin has changed. There'll always be digital agencies. But if you're on the client side and your title says digital marketer, you need to wake up. There's no such thing as not digital. In this country, outdoor is now it's nearly 60% digital. Do you want to include outdoor? Newspapers. Every newspaper I work for has 70 to 85% of their revenue coming from digital subscriptions. Should we include news media in it? Every TV station in this country is digital. We turned analog off 4 years ago, yeah? Radio, we're approaching 50% of every minute in this country is listened to on DAB. Should we have radio in there? Show me what's not digital. The point is digital marketing is just marketing. And I'm not saying because I don't like digital marketers, I think they're tremendous, but they need to wake up, they have to grow up, they have to learn about TV and outdoor, spread their tactical skills, and then, more importantly, come upstairs to strategy, because you're living in a little tactical island which is disappearing. You need to get promoted. You need to get up there and start making strategic choices, not potty little tactical choices. So take my advice, take the dreaded D word out of your title, because very shortly it will make you look like you're working on the World Wide Web. It's an outdated concept. Thank you.
I think we're hurtling towards our finish. So, Mark, your second nomination.
Women. I don't think there's too many women in... No, I'm only kidding. There's clearly too many women in senior positions. I'd like to put agile in there. It's an up-and-comer, right? So everyone wants to be fucking agile, like they're acrobats or something all of a sudden, right? Agility. Agility is the opposite of strategy, yeah? I mean, I like a company having a little bit of flex as the year goes on is a good thing, but agility is becoming another word for we'll just make it up as we go along, and an excuse for not having a strategy. We're agile. And the difference between someone who's very agile and someone who's shit-faced and can't stand up is very difficult to discern. In the same way, I think a lot of marketers are claiming to be agile because they haven't got a fucking strategy. You go around the boardrooms of the United Kingdom right now, the vast majority of brands and marketing companies have no strategy. And things like agility and digital are getting in the way of answering those big strategic questions. So I like a little bit of agility, but I think it's becoming a big word, an excuse word for not having a strategy and sticking to the strategy. So I'd like to put agility in there too. Yeah.